The company is involved in the emerging oil and gas exploration industry. And we are working towards building a capacity in terms of doing business in that sector as a local company, as an indigenous company.
The agenda for this particular session is to introduce why we are here.
And what we have been involved in are activities that are allowed supporting even our colleagues in other business lines to be able to do business in this sector. So we hold seminars, training, as well as events like this one, like WarGate.
I also am glad that we have companies and people we were with last year with us today again, and we hope to continue those kind of collaborations and working relationships. We also have new companies.
And the way it came about is because there's a need for local companies to be able to know what they need to do to be able to engage with the international companies that are organizing or exploring actually.
What I wanted to talk to you today is just a seed of an idea that we have been developing and discussing with some in the industry and donors and other private equity people across East Africa and possibly West Africa. And it's just really to sort of throw something out there to you and use this opportunity possibly to get some feedback either today or maybe as and when you pass our stall later on.
Today I was presenting an idea that we've had and we've been discussing with industry, donors and other private equity firms who have an interest in working in the oil and gas space in East Africa. One of the things we've been talking about is the idea of a challenge fund, which would be a mechanism to give out grants and money and other forms of support to Kenyan businesses who are interested in trying to get into the supply chains of these large oil and gas companies that often find that there's a big standards, financing and other gaps which prevent them from making that jump to becoming a supplier in the oil and gas space. I think with the diagram that I showed, it has that sort of outer circle of industries and businesses that people are currently in already. Like we've seen loads of logistics companies here today, because that's probably one of the easiest things to do. Or Afex, which comes from their background, is providing camp services to the tourism industry. And it's a question of, are there other Kenyan businesses out there who are in a related sector? It might be working on mining, it might be working in other sectors, where it's just a question of working slightly differently, getting new skills, getting new standards and getting qualified, and then could you actually transition from, in the case of Afex, from tourism into the oil and gas, or it could be from geothermal or mining into the oil and gas sector. And those are probably some of the most immediate areas that most businesses are probably thinking of, rather than the really high-tech stuff where they've got no experience, no background, and they would have to tie in with another foreign company, and the foreign company would look at them and say, well, where's your track record here? And it'd be a non-starter of a relationship.
So the way we've kind of avoided it, and we have, is just by, dealing with and spending and investing that time in the relationships. And so it's kind of disgraceful to ask if you've got a relationship with the person, whereas it's kind of accepted if it's the policeman on the street that has stopped your totally legit shipment and he doesn't know who you are. But if he knows who you are, if there is that relationship, it becomes kind of distasteful for that to happen.
My name is Reed Aronson. I'm a social risk management consultant, and basically what we do is we bridge the gap between big multinational companies from Europe and the US and kind of link them up with local companies, local content, and help kind of explain some of how things go within Kenya and within the East African continent.
Your business development. How many of you would think that a multi-million-dollar seismic survey or drilling campaign can be stopped by 15 armed Turkana? None of them have Twitter. None of them have Facebook. None of them have a LinkedIn profile with previous experience to stopping these type of things. But they're there, and they're real, and they are an important part in the stakeholder engagement and in the entire process. We may be a very, very, very small cog in the big engine that is the oil and gas industry.
We find local solutions for bigger international companies where they're located in more remote.
What we provide is basically a bridge between some of these. Everybody's talked about the challenge of high international gas standards with its US standards and Kenyan expectations. If you're operating in Turkana trying to explain to an exhauster service that the truck just doesn't meet muster, they're like, it takes the crap out of the ground and it brings it where it needs to go. But trying to be that bridge between the two and explaining and bridging and talking, and that's basically what we do. We're the link between Europe or the US or South Africa and the local people on the ground, even further than Nairobi.
Everything has to work in the context of relationships. If you don't have a relationship, if you don't kind of respect each other in what you're doing, nothing's going to get done.
The panel discussion is actually an addition from last year's the way we did things the first time we held this event. And the reason for the panel discussion is because when you have had a presentation, it is important to expound on the issues that have been presented by the speaker. So that's why we had put together people, business leaders from across the sectors, so that people can ask questions, you can be able to raise the concern and try and enrich the discussion and the content so that people can understand further how the entire value chain works. So you realize that we had an oil and gas exploration company, we have a service contractor, and we also put together 2 or 3 local companies so that people can have an enriched discussion. So everybody across the board can have their issues addressed. Yes. What we have been able to do, we are not a very old company, and what we have been able to do over the last couple of months is partner with other companies to be able to offer services and products to the oil and gas sector. One of the things that we did very recently is we are launching, and we have actually launched the Upstream magazine, and that is aimed at also providing information to the oil and gas players within Kenya and within the East African region. That's the first one of its kind in the region. So we are trying to ensure that we continuously come up with new product solutions. This is also an event that is aimed only at local people in Kenya.
I think so. I think it's a good stepping stone. I mean, the oil and gas industry in Kenya is very new, and so it kind of helps us put it on the right foot, being very conscious of using local content and making a distinct effort to build Kenyan businesses and really invest in Kenya and have Kenya be the direct beneficiary of the natural resources that are here.
I thought today went well. I thought there was a lot of interesting questions. I think it's obviously the final presentation was very much around local communities and interaction with local communities. and that always gets a huge amount of attention because it's such a controversial area, and I think it's so difficult to do it really, really well. But we heard from a good company out there today who seems to be making a difference up there and keeping things on track and keeping the drilling programs going. So